now we're going to go ahead and create our score display. So I'm going to go ahead and have our score be displayed in the top right corner. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I want to right click my canvas, go to UI, and I want to create a text element. This will create a text game object that has a text component. And you'll see it in the center of your screen. It's a little dark. Go ahead and make it white by dragging the color palette all the way to the top left. And we can go ahead and reposition this in the top right here. Now this also leads me to a very important topic here I want to touch on is anchoring. For instance, watch what happens when I scale this. I want my lives and my text to be anchored to the corners. Now in order to do that, Unity provides us with custom anchored solutions. So if I click on my player lives and I go to the anchor box in the top right here, I can choose top corner, and you'll see here that it anchors it based on the distance from these little 4 triangles here. So now when I scale my screen, my lives is always in the top left corner. So we're going to do the exact same thing with our text. So first thing first though, let's go ahead and rename this to score, and then we'll go ahead and have a space, and it would say, for instance, it might say 1 or 10, 20, whatever. It will be basically, we'll say we get 10 points for every enemy destroyed. All right. So here we have score 20. We may want to make it a little bit bigger, so like 16, maybe 20. And I think everything else is pretty good. I'll set my alignment to center. And I want it to set to overflow. Now the reason why I want to do overflow is because say I get to about, say I got to say 2,000 points, right? Here's what would happen if I did that. Eventually, it's going to wrap. So this is like 20 million points, but eventually it's going to wrap and you can't see the score anymore. So by using overflow instead of wrap for the horizontal overflow, I can now see my whole score. So we'll set that back to 20. Alrighty, now let's go ahead and rename this as well to score. And then I want to reposition it to be pretty even, a good amount of spacing. I'd say I'm happy with it about right here. Yeah, I'd say I'm pretty happy with that. So what I want to do now is I want to anchor it to the top right. So I'm going to go to this anchor selection menu and do top right. Now, you can see here when I change the scale of my screen, all of my UI elements are anchored to those positions. Okay, so we have our score set to 20. Let's go ahead and actually move that more to the left just to give it some breathing room. Okay, here we go. So we got our score set to 20 down over there. And now we can go ahead and actually create the logic for updating this number. So already you should be able to visualize the behavior that we want. When we destroy an enemy, right before destroying the enemy, we're going to say to the UI manager, hey, I've been destroyed. Go ahead and add 10 to the current score. And to do that, we're going to be updating this text here. So right now it says score 20. We would change it to say score 30, score 40, and so forth. And we're going to be doing that dynamically, which means we're going to be affecting and working with this text component. So let's go ahead and save our scene here, in case we haven't done that recently. And let's go ahead and open up our UI manager. Now, how do I know what the current score of the game is? And how do I know that when we destroy an enemy, how many points I get? Well, that's just it. That doesn't exist yet. There is no score. So we need a variable that's going to create the ability for us to have a score system. Now, for me personally, it makes sense to have the score in the UI manager because it gets updated here. And remember, we don't want to communicate with the player or the enemies. So it makes more sense to just have a score. So here, let's go ahead and declare a new variable called public int score. Okay, and this score is just going to be a whole number of constantly we're adding 10 to this value. So here we have public int score. Now, how do we actually increment this score? We have this method here that says public void update score. Well, it's simple. All we're going to do is we're going to take the score value of whatever it is, and we're going to say plus equals however many points we want to give the player for every enemy destroyed. So we'll say 10. Now, if you remember previously, there are 3 ways to write this. We have score plus equals 10. We have score equals score plus 10. And that's it. I apologize. 2 ways. You can say score plus equals 10 or score equals score plus 10. These are identical methods. The proper, more professional way to do things is with score plus equals 10. Okay, so here we go. We're going to call the update score method. We're going to add 10 to our current score. And then now we need to actually update the on-screen element. So how do we do that? Well, similar to how we needed to update our image display, we need a reference to the text component. So let's go ahead and say public text, and we'll go ahead and say score text. We'll save our script. We'll save our script. We'll head back into Unity, click on your score, or more so your canvas, and you'll see here it's looking for a text object. We'll drag our score into the score text. I'm going to rename this to score underscore text so we know. So score underscore text. And on our canvas, we have our score text. So now that we have access to our score text, we can now access this text property. So here, what we're going to do is we are going to change that value. So we're going to get the current score text, which is our variable that holds that text component. We say dot text, and then we can go ahead and reassign it to a new string just like this. So the new string is going to be score with a colon, space, and then we'll append the current score. As simple as that. Now all we have to do is go ahead and actually call this update score method, which we'll go ahead and call that from the enemy right before it gets destroyed. So let's go ahead and let's hop over to our enemy script. And we need to create a handle to our UI manager component. And then we need to access it and call the update score right before the enemy dies. So actually, I would like you to go ahead and complete that as a challenge. Go ahead in the enemy script. You need to get a reference and a handle to the UI manager component. And then I want you to go ahead and update the score when the enemy dies. I'll see you in the challenge review.